Hello, welcome to my channel and welcome to my 2019 bullet journal setup. I am pretty excited to share this with you. I have been working on this video and composing it for about 2.5 to 3 weeks, and I still feel like I just don't have a ton in here, but maybe that's just a couple years of doing it now and learning what I actually need and what I use versus just doing everything that I see done online. So I did the basics. I created an index because I'm using a Nuuna, which does not come standard with an index, so you do have to create your own. And I am working really hard to actually use my index more often because it is so valuable to be able to quickly find pages that you need to reference in the past, especially later on down the road when you're done with a notebook and then you realize you want to go back and look at something. It's way easier if you actually have your pages indexed to find what you're looking for rather than flipping through 3 or 4 notebooks looking for just one spread. So this year I'm really going to put my effort into using my index. So the way I have mine laid out is the page number in the left-hand column, and then in the center will be the title of the page, and off to the right is the category, because most of my stuff falls into a couple categories like health and fitness, blogging, personal life, self-care, yoga, those kind of things. So I'll be able to categorize them, and instead of using a color coding, I'm just going to write the category in, which will make it a little bit easier in finding what I'm looking for when I'm going to see it down the line. Because of the spacing in the Nuuna, I did each row as 2 dot widths because the spacing is 3 millimeters, so it's pretty little. And then so I did one page here in the video, and then I left room for another page, which I ended up completing later on, but I didn't film it just because it's just a lot of lines being drawn. So I didn't film that, but I do have 2 pages for my index. I don't index absolutely everything. Certain weeks I don't index, certain collections, even if they're only like a one-time thing. So perhaps like around Christmas time for Christmas related things, I might not index those just because it's highly unlikely that I will be going back to view those anytime unless I'm just want to see what I did as far as design. In which case it will usually be right around the December spread, so it should be decently easy to find. But I mainly use my index for things that I want to reference later, like health and fitness or yoga stuff or self-care or journaling, things like that. But you can index whatever you want. You can index your entire journal, every single page, all the way through. You can not use an index. That is part of what makes this system so great. Another thing that I wanted to share before we get too far into this is that well, here you can see that I already had done my key. I did that way earlier because I am using the same notebook that I've been using. I started this notebook in December because my other one was filled up. So I started using it in December, and there was no way that I was going to start a completely new notebook in January with only 2 months in here. And I haven't been doing a lot of bonus collections or spreads, so my journal isn't even that full. I think I'm in maybe like the 30s or 40s pages in December, so there was absolutely no reason for me to start a brand new notebook. So this page is going to be my future log, and every year I do a future log a little bit different, and I end up doing the full 12 months, and then I end up regretting it because my notebooks only last me about 6 months. So perhaps in my next journal I will remember that and only do 6 months worth of a future log, but I did do the full 12 for the video. I only did the first, I didn't even do the first 6. I did the first 3 and then not the last 3, but the 3 after that, if that makes sense, because it's going to span the entire page. But I didn't really want to film the entire thing because it's just a lot of number writing, which I didn't figure was that appealing to watch. Maybe some people are satisfied watching me just write tons of numbers, but I already knew that this video was going to be super long, so I didn't film the whole thing. The future log is typically one of the longest spreads to set up, for me at least, just writing all the numbers. I have carpal tunnel from when I had my daughter, I don't know what happened, but when I had my first daughter, I got carpal tunnel really bad in my wrist. And it's not very bad now, but in the wintertime it gets pretty bad. So when I'm doing really small writing, like in the future log here, my hand gets pretty tired pretty fast. So that was just another reason or excuse, whatever you want to call it, on why I didn't show the entire thing. I kept this pretty minimal. A lot of my stuff is actually becoming more and more minimal, and I've seen that in myself. When I very first started bullet journaling, I went all out. I would take 2 hours on a weekly spread. I would take, I don't know, probably 15 plus hours setting up my journal for the year to come. And this year, before all these were edited and fast forward, made fast, whatever word you want to say, it was, I think, about 2.5 hours worth of work for all the pages that I did. So I did go a bit more minimalistic. I do still love to doodle. Doodling is one of my very favorite hobbies, but when it comes to my journal, I have just come to realize that efficiency is what matters the most to me, and all the extras come later if there's time for extras. And on top of filming this, I will also be filming my January setup here pretty soon. So it was just one more thing, and I just, as a mom of a toddler who's at home with me all day and running back and forth to pick up my daughter from school, I just honestly, I don't have a ton of time to be drawing in my notebook. And maybe I do, maybe I'm making excuses, and if I wasn't on Facebook or something, I would have time. But anyways, that's beside the point. So I did add some little doodles here just because I didn't, when I got done writing everything, I was like, yikes, that's a little bland even for me. So I did add some little floral doodles, and then I did finish up the rest of the future log later, and I'm so glad that I waited actually to do that second page, because what you'll see on the next page is that I used some Stabilo Boss highlighters, and they bleed through the paper in the Nuuna. And so that's something that I wasn't really prepared for, because in the past, Nuuna had the absolute best paper and nothing really bled through, but they changed their makeup of their paper. And now it does. I read somebody said that it's due to the coating on the pages. I'm not really sure if that is the case or not, but this highlighter bled through, and I knew it was as I was writing, but there was really no going back. So you can see there that it bled through pretty bad. I did fix it, but that was after I did this page. I just kind of figured like I might as well finish at this point. But I also knew that that was the last that I would be using that marker, unless I knew in advance that I could make the back page so that it wouldn't bleed through, or so that I could cover it up, because I don't mind a little bit of ghosting, but when it bleeds through that heavily, it does make the writing or decorations on the back hard to see, or if you add color, it definitely distorts the color. So as per usual, I went with a lot of pink in this theme. It is my favorite color. It's my favorite color to use in my journal. I use other colors here and there. Purple is another one I really like, but I usually stick with pink. So here I'm creating my master list, and if you've been on my blog, maybe you've seen my master list in the past, or maybe you've seen other people use them. This is kind of where I write down all my big tasks that don't really have a deadline, and they're not goals, they're just tasks that I want to complete. So like for me, this is going to be cleaning out my storage unit and taking things to Goodwill, and shampooing my floors and things like that. So there are big, ugly tasks that I don't want to do that go on this list. And then how I keep track of mine is that I write in whatever the task is, and then I have a space for migration where I move that task to my weekly spread so that I can do it in that week, and then I can check off to see that, to make sure that I've done it. But this is the easiest way for me to do it. Again, I kept this pretty simple. I just added some lines to kind of separate things. I don't usually fill up my entire master list, so even for me, this is pretty big, but I definitely like the setup, and I like having it because it's a place to write in things that otherwise I might forget. And then on the adjacent page, we have my 2019 goals. Now, I didn't do my breakdown of my goals here, and you won't see me write in my goals. This is just the title. So this is where I'm going to write in all the big goals that I have for 2019, and then I'll probably add some doodles to go along with them. I like to do that when I'm doing like a goals page or a bucket list. And then, so in January, in my January setup, I want to break down my first quarter goals and with an action plan. And so I just figure that each quarter, when it comes around to that specific month, that's where I will keep my action plan and the breakdown of my goals. This is just where I'll house the goals themselves. So I just used Tombows to write this and fine line pen to write 2019. If you're curious about how to write block lettering, as you can see, I'm not the greatest at it. I don't put precision into making sure that all of my lines are perfectly equally spaced. But the easiest way I've found is just to take a pencil and just write out whatever you're going to write, and then use your pencil again to just trace around your word. And that kind of gives it that block lettering. And then when you go back, you can just use your pen to trace around the outside, and then that gives you that block lettering effect. You can do the same thing with calligraphy or with cursive writing, and you can trace around the outside of your cursive, and that will give you a hollow cursive look. And I really like it. It does take some time, but it's really fun and really pretty. So I left my goals page at this for now. Like I said, if you want, when my January video comes out, I will hopefully have a little bit of this filled out that I can kind of show. I just didn't want to make this video like 40 minutes long. For one, I can't talk for 40 minutes. And for two, that's just a really long video. So here I am fixing the back, and something that I do is whenever I make like a Dutch door spread, I keep the leftover paper that I cut out, and it's proven really beneficial for things like this. So I just used a glue stick, and then I took that piece of paper and pasted it right over where it had bled through. The only thing that I didn't do is I didn't line up the dots. So when I went back and did my future log, I was thrown off. I kept thinking that the lines I was drawing were crooked, but they weren't. So here we are flipping backwards. So this is the page right after my index. You can see that the second page of my index is done. And now we're going on to my blog stats. Obviously, not everybody will have this page. For me, this is a very important page for me to have, and I have it in all my journals. I haven't been keeping up on the one that I currently have right now because it is in the beginning of my 2018 journal, which I don't open that often. So for this one, I just did 6 months because that's about how long my journal lasts. So January to June, and I'm doing things a little bit different on this one. So if you do have a blog, you might want to try this. So on the left-hand side, I am going to be writing in numbers for page views, and then on the right-hand side are numbers for unique visitors to my blog. So then I will use a bar graph for one, and then I will use like a line graph for the other, so that they can both be on the same graph and have totally different numbers. If you know about blogging, you know that if you have, say, 100,000 page views, chances are you have 40 to 50,000 unique viewers, or somewhere in that range. So they can be totally different numbers. So I had to have two different measuring systems, which I have the key for here. So I have like a dark gray that will be used for the line graph, and then, or a bar graph, and then just a black pen for the line graph. And so this is just direct visitors to my site, so I can kind of see how it's trending and compare it to previous years. And then on this page, I also like to include all my social media and email stats to see how those are growing. I tend to do really good in certain areas for a while and then not so good in others. Blogging has proven to be so much more than writing, which is why I started it, because I've always been a writer. But it has proven that the writing portion of it is only about 10 to 15% of the job. A lot of it is social media. And here lately, my social media habits have been absolute crap. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I used to post every single day, and now I post like 3 times a week if I'm lucky. So this coming year, I really want to pay closer attention to my growth because I should be growing at a faster rate when I look at others. And I try not to compare myself, but when I look at others and I'm like, oh my gosh, why are my numbers still so stagnant? But I know why, because those people put a lot of time and effort into their social media and they're on and interacting, and I just haven't been as interactive. So this is the chart for my social media. So along the top, I have all of my social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, my email subscribers, sorry, I can't talk, Twitter, and then Pinterest, and then on the side column, I have the months, and then at the bottom, I am going to be putting the total number growth that I grow over that 6-month period in each category. And then at the bottom, I left myself a little bit of room to write out my blogging goals, which will also be on my 2019 page. But I figure the more you write down your goals, the better off you are. So if I write them here and I'm having to be on this page once a month and writing in my stats, I will also be forced to be looking at my goals. So I figure it's kind of a win-win. So I just kind of left this open space at the bottom to write in my blogging goals for that. So before we get into my final and possibly favorite spread, you may have noticed that I don't have a word of the year in here, but I have chosen one, and it will be in my January setup. It's going to be my January cover page, and my word of the year is breathe. Over the last year especially, I've been doing yoga now for about a year and a half consistently, but this past year has really just made me fall in love with it. I've actually pretty much given up all of my other workouts. I used to be huge into like HIIT training and lifting weights, and for the most part I have stopped doing those in favor of yoga and Pilates and bar and some dance, which I do all from home, and this isn't sponsored or anything, but I use Alo Moves, which is a video platform. You do have to pay for it either monthly or annually, and they have thousands of classes that are by amazing instructors in yoga and bar and Pilates and all kinds of stuff. So anyways, my word of the year is breathe. It has to do with yoga. It has to do with patience and just taking the time to really accept things. So I will go into detail on that more in my January spread. So now we are on to, this is the final spread of my 2019 setup, and I just posted this on my Instagram, and I did it last year and I didn't end up following through. I'm starting to feel like I'm just saying I didn't do this, but part of it is just growth and learning what works for you, and my very first setup just didn't motivate me well, so we're going to try it this way and really try to be successful at it. So this is what I call 12 months of healthy challenges. So I'm drawing out like mini calendars for each month, and they're really super small. The calendar is just that bottom portion you see where the lines are, which is all filled in here in just a sec, right there. And then the top part underneath the month is where I actually write in what my challenge is for that month. So you guys may see on Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook or wherever you see it that everybody likes to participate in like little monthly challenges. It might be something like do 25 sit-ups a day or 25 squats a day, or drink a protein shake every morning, or do yoga 5 times a week, or walk 8,000 steps every day for the whole month. So those are all like little mini challenges that you can do every month. So I wanted to, when I came up with this idea last year, it was that I would do 12 months of healthy challenges, and hopefully some of those would become habits. So drinking 8 glasses of water every single day for a whole month. And then so each of these little calendars acts as like a tracker. And there are other ways to do this that might work better for you. Maybe you create a page that is all just the listings of your monthly challenges, and then you just add those into your actual habit tracker for the month. For me, this is kind of, I like to have it separated where it feels more like a challenge, not just one of my normal habits. I feel like I'm more likely to try to accomplish it knowing that it's on a separate page and that it's a challenge page. So I will use the boxes provided to write in my challenges, and I usually try to do some fun lettering and maybe add a couple doodles in there. but I haven't chosen those challenges just yet. I have a blog post on this page that shows a ton of different challenges you could add if you want to do this. And I've also got a printable set up for 2019 for health and fitness that has a bunch of different pages for health and fitness as well, including this page. So if you want to check that out, I will leave the link in the description. Again, this is like one of those pages that it's obviously it's not necessary and not everybody will want to do this, or it's not going to be your standard yearly setup, but for me this is something that I really want to do. My health is one of my top priorities, so this was definitely a page that I wanted to include. And then because I did have some time, I did want to add some fun doodles, which are floral because they're my favorite thing to draw and they're pretty quick and easy for me. So I added those around the sides, and then at the bottom you will see that I also added a quote. It's one of my favorites. It was said by Michael Jordan. I have used this in my class. I've used this in speeches I've given, but it says, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." And I find that that is one of the truest quotes there is, and it reminds me that I need to take chances and I need to do things that are hard. Even if I fail, because if I don't try at all, then I'm already destined to fail at whatever that dream or that wish is. So guys, that wraps it up. I am about talked out. So thank you guys so much for watching. Continue to watch this video till the end to just kind of see it all come together. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and hit the thumbs up button on this video, and stay tuned for my January setup, which should be out in the next week. Have a safe and wonderful new year and happy holidays.